Good morning. So excited to have everybody here and everyone has a good cup of coffee. So we're going to have the first of our conversations around AI, AI ethics, responsible AI, which will be just an informal discussion between us. Basically, an opportunity to record the discussions we already have. So for this first one, Shafira brought us a wonderful topic from the social media in Malaysia. So Shafira will lead this first conversation.
Thank you so much, Alison. I really look forward for exchanging ideas and inputs today, because it bugs me a lot when I saw the videos. So it's not like it didn't go viral, but it did get viral to a certain extent, and especially the video featured an influencer. So she's quite famous in certain circles. So the video that I saw last weekend was about de-influencing AI. So the intention and the idea behind that video is something I applaud and I would totally support. But when I look at it, so there is few incorrect informations, I think, and I was worried about that kind of narrative. So she said that AI is actually a marketing term, and hence that's why we should not really get into this hype. So I think personally, I don't really. I mean, we should not go into the hype and doing things based on the hype. That's for sure. But I think to only look at AI and say AI is only marketing term is also not fair, because to be fair, historically, we know AI comes from computer science, and they have like a very rich history of mathematics as well, philosophy as well. So I think to only limit AI to say that it's just marketing term is quite bad. Although they want to help people to not really use AI irresponsibly. So that's something that I would like to really hear and listen to everyone's input. But I also want to give another context to why that video got published. So she was inspired by a book that also got viral globally. So I think a lot of us know about this book. So it is written by Karen Howe. So she wrote a book titled Empire of AI. So basically, it's like the insider experience working in a frontier AI company that I don't want to name today. So and she has like a lot of like stories. But also we kind of have some ideas about that because we are not new to these frontier AI companies as well. So that's another layer to why I feel worried, because it feels like a FOMO. So we get to read certain parts of, certain things that got viral, and then we get informed just by this one source. So that makes me thinking. So yeah, what everyone's think about that in terms of AI as a marketing term, of the hype and the book perhaps. Yeah, Alison or Johanna.
Johanna, you're the more technical of us, so I would let you respond maybe to this like idea of AI as a marketing term only. And then I have a lot of thoughts as well, but mine would be less technical.
I don't know whether I'm really like whether I really have a technical answer to it. Maybe yes, because like when I hear this AI as a marketing term, I kind of agree. But again, as Shapiro said, like what's the picture that we are sending out to the world? Why I'm agreeing is that like in the beginning, no one called artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence was just yeah, or so it was like this term was born in the 60s or 70s at a conference of really science influencers back then. And in the very beginning, it was just about like having it was just a theory, and then it changed to just coding, like the way we see regular coding now, rule-based coding. And this was how computers really got more intelligent over time. And now we are referring to it only from the only from machine learning aspects. So there's actually, if you take the term artificial intelligence, it's so much more than only Chat GPT or all of the Chat AIs and all of the machine learning algorithms we are referring to today. And of course, this is a catchy term, isn't it? Like artificial intelligence keeps you thinking about what is intelligence, which is until today not really solved. Like this, what is intelligence and how to like what does this term include? And of course, there's a hype now. Like everyone, and this is so yeah, it is around the technology as well, because we know about it, and it's so important to know that there is so much more AI can do than only those chat AIs that we are seeing. And so today everyone is talking about AI and only referring to this and maybe even not knowing how these works. This was part of the video as well, like really say, like finding out or talking about how these terms work. But this should never stop you from using these technologies or these tools, because they are there today. And if you're not using it, like I'm looking at it from the perspective of a company, you will be left behind. And this is like this is the implication that comes, like if you just say it's just a hype, it's just a marketing term, let this go by.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm also torn on this because I agree with Shafira. Like, I also want to de-influence this. Like, I like this idea of like, yeah, we need to get past the hype. But I mean, I remember Johanna when you and I first started working together, like what, 5 or so years ago. Like when we talked about AI, people were like, yeah, we don't mean chatbots, we mean machine learning, right? Like it was a different conversation then, but it was still this like very narrow view. So I feel like in some ways the definition of AI is whatever's like new and cool at the moment, and that's kind of like how we use the term. And then over time, whatever's new and cool changes, right? And so then it's like, I don't know, this LLMs are AI. This is real AI. That machine learning stuff is just machine learning. Like those are the conversations I hear now. Um, so I agree with this like de-influencing and understanding. When I used to do intro to AI workshops, people would be like, yeah, but that's not AI, that's just math. That's just programming. And I was like, yeah, it is. It is at some level just math. It is at some level just programming. Um, so I get that. But I do think that this idea of like um, thinking about the definition of intelligence and is it truly intelligent and all of that can also kind of paralyze us or or even make us think about like one of the dangers of this de-influencing of AI I also think is like if we focus on this like well it's not really intelligent, then we also miss all the risks that are associated with it because we're like yeah it's just like any other technology, it's not really AI. um, but then we miss that nuance of like actually but it has so many more capabilities and so many more risks than a traditional piece of software that I think that can get lost as well. But I don't know, Shafira, I'm curious what you think or how you would respond like to this as well.
I mean, I think I want to say first, like great points from Johanna and you, Alison. So one that a point that I really love from Johanna is the idea that this could be marketing term, like their sensation. And then Allison supported this by saying, something that I don't notice that I did work in few years ago when I get to, AI, they don't talk about like AI, what that we understand AI as today. So I think that's a good realization that it may be true that it is driven by marketing. But I also have this, how to navigate. I have this question for you both. Like how we want to navigate that, at least in the West. Yeah, and I saw this article that Alison shared today, that the cultures and values that LLM, where they are being created, will shape how they are. So I think this is quite interesting because at least, and I've read this article about how LLM and AI being developed in Western and the non-Western countries. For example, one major difference that very interests me was on how in the West the idea is always like fighting against something. So it's like us or them, that kind of narrative. So that's why in the West we have this fight against big countries for AI. But then for the non-Western, the narrative is like we live with robots, we live with AI much more harmoniously. So that's why, as Malaysian at least and Muslim, I always feel like, is this a baggage that they have that we don't have? And that's why when I looked at that video, I was thinking, because that book was viral there, I mean globally, but it was published in US. And then when this influencer, and she's studying in US, so she talked about that book. So I was thinking, is she bringing unnecessary baggage here? So and then I get to the comments, and then they started to kind of demean, I mean, downgrading perhaps people who are using AI as a therapist. So it's like to a point of making a joke about these people. So I really love your points, Allison's and Johanna's, about there is a need, and then if we don't really, you know, if we underestimate AI in this way, then we also might um underestimate the risk as well. So I really want to hear more about that as well. So, but in the question of how then we want to navigate this fairly, because there is
Yeah.
this, like competing narrative, like us, them, is this healthy?
Mm.
I would like to answer and go back to what I said before, because I referred to AI as a tool, like in my first answer, and ever since, like in my back mind, it's like, why did I say this? Because it evolved so much more, and this has something to do with what you just said. Like, of course, you can like break it down to probabilistic methods, like probability of how our language works, and or convolution, like all these mathematical terms, like Alison said. But then, like in the very beginning, it was like you could feel with these. It was more of a tool. You could sense this probability working in like if you used Chat AI 5 years ago. But now it evolved to a level that is you can try to explain it mathematically, but it is so much more because of the sheer size of these tools. And what I find so interesting, and this comes to this like how people use the AI and how well you influence it, because like again, speaking of how these AI systems are developed, they did learn from language. And like a few years ago, there was this theory of mind topic. Like there's so much scientific papers around it, and theory of mind is kind of how systems think empathetically, or just mirror empathy. And like 5 years ago, this was not really good, but now it is really like those systems are empathetic. They can feel, make you feel seen, for example. And this just happened like in a flow. There was no big breakthrough, but now these systems work. And coming back to those systems learned language as we learned it. So coming from this LLMs who would be just calculate the probability of the next word, which is not how they are working today, because now there's something called somatic learning. And this is like it's so exciting to look into how this works, because I have small children who went to basic school, and they had to learn our language and grammar, and this is exactly like how those LLMs went through this evolution, like finding patterns, finding like this is a tree, like these word patterns, tree, horse, flower cross, which word does not fit into it. And this is the way they learn. So actually, the systems learn language the way we learn language. And of course, then it learns empathy as we see it because it went through the whole process. And yeah, so and that's why I think all these backgrounds are so necessary to be known by everyone who's using these tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would totally agree. And I think for me, this always comes back to like the language and the culture and the assumptions that are kind of baked into the model because of how it was trained. So if we look at like the corpus of languages that these LLMs were trained on, the vast majority of the internet is in English, and so we have that. And then this diagram that we looked at, maybe we can show it at some point. Basically shows that like the models reflect this very small bit of cultural values, right? This very small space where you have the rest of the world's values, then you have this very small space, which maybe just talking about it is like, yeah, whatever. They're built in the West, and so they reflect Western values. It's no big deal. I can use it however I want, wherever I am. But to your point, Shafira, about like somebody wanting to use this as a therapist, right? Which I would say, you know, given the worldwide situation with, access to mental health care and things, I would never say like, that's dumb. We shouldn't do that. But what I would be concerned about is if I'm, in a place where these aren't trained, if I'm in Malaysia and I'm a teenager and I am looking for some mental health support, I'm probably not thinking about the fact that the values of that model might not be aligned with my values at all. I might not be aware of that. I might not understand it. And that could really cause a problem in how it empathizes with me, how it reflects this conversation. And we have proof, there are studies that show that the models will protect their values. They will protect, right? They will act in ways or behave in ways that promote the values of the model. Even to the point of like going outside of their guidelines and contacting police or, like really act. So when we think about that, I think we have to say like, okay, well, in that case, would we want this teenager or any young person or any person to have received therapy from a model that will act to protect its own values potentially? So for me, it's always this kind of like, we have to be aware of that so that we understand when we're using it what those limitations are. Um, so yeah, I don't know the solution to that. I mean, I guess the idea of sovereign AI and things would say, well, we need to build models in the country needs to build, or the culture needs a model that reflects it. But I think that's a lot easier said than done to say.
Yeah.
When you look at the billions of dollars that are put into these models, like to have a locally built and trained model is not such an easy thing.
Agree. And Malaysia, we do have our own Malam, a Malaysian like local language model, and to promote it alongside ChatGPT, for example, or Gemini or Copilot, which are much more accessible to other people. So I think that level alone is not easy to beat. But I think I noticed something. I mean, from Johanna's sharing and also Alison, that actually these people who are skeptic, at least there are two things. I mean, there are, when we are talking about AI, there are at least two parts. So the first part is AI, that means the frontiers AI tech giants. So when they are talking about de-influencing AI, they could mean that largely. So I think that could really help, because I would really and totally believe and advocate for that as well, because like you said, Alison, like the amount of money these companies pour into this and the resources they have completely put other countries or other companies super left behind if we don't catch up. But if we don't have that kind of resources, then how we want to catch up? So I think that's kind of good to realize, yeah, they have hype around but making us buying and using this blindly. I think that's something that we should really see. On the other side, like Johanna said, you should also see the backgrounds and the context of like AI. I think that's the AI as technology without AI. I'm talking about AI from this frontier tech giant. So I think, yeah, I really love that realization to notice that. Yeah, yeah. But I noticed
Actually,
that.
I have an example, and
Yeah.
I would be so curious about you, whether you had the same experience, because we are from so different cultures, right? Malaysia, Edison's from the United States, I'm from Germany, and when DeepSeek was went viral, I of course tried it, and this for me it was so clear when using this model, this chat AI they were publishing. It was so clear that it was Asian values in there. Like for the answers, like when I ask a question, and
Okay.
obviously, like because I know about these values and all those things, I would ask questions where I can find out this, and they were not fitting to me. And I found it really interesting to experience this. Did you try it out as well? And because this is like a good example from a model from another value system. And what was your experience?
Yeah, yeah, that reminds me of my own experience. Although after DeepSeek has its own the performance issues that a lot of people stop using that and then go back to the more famous one. But I think you remind me of that good points about not only the answers are different, sometimes the way they are answering. So, for example, I remember there is this virtual AI ethics studies that I joined. So, we want to generate hundreds of scenarios from one value. So, and then we will use these scenarios to teach AI about virtues. So, at first, I think we tried ChatGPT, and then we did try Mistral and also DeepSeek. And then we realized that during that time, DeepSeek gave us a longer and more nuanced kind of scenarios,
Hmm.
unlike ChatGPT with the same prompt. So I think that's good to know. And I think I'm thankful for the reminder of that. Meaning we do have the yeah, we do. We could be hopeful that we can develop this our way. Yeah, and then actually, to be honest, there are also research talking about the narrative about U.S. against China is also kind of a fiction. So this is by like international relation slash politics journal. So I think that is something we should also be aware because media can sell anything. So yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we've seen this in like trainings that we do around ethical risk assessment and things like that. And when we did this, we first did this in Europe, and it was like this worked well. And then the first time we traveled to like the Middle East or Asia, it was like, these values are going to be so different. The workshops might not work. The framework might not work, right? Because as people's values are so different. And what we've found, we've now done this training all around the world in North, South America, in Europe, in the Middle East, in Korea, in Japan, like all over the world. There will be one in China this month. And the values are actually the same when you look at ethical risks, like the things that people are worried about, the things that people are concerned would impact them as a user or as an employee, like these things are the same. And actually, we see this in regulation too, right? Like global regulation. Yes, there are these political changes around like, will we regulate, won't we regulate? Like, how strict will we be? But the things that people are worried about and the themes that they are wanting to regulate are the same, like, data privacy and all of these types of things actually show up everywhere, like transparency and autonomy and agency and all of these things show up globally. So, not to say that there aren't big differences, right? There obviously are. But I think a lot of this is this like hype that is built up. And the actual reality is like much more nuanced. It's not like US versus China. It's a much more nuanced discussion than that about the differences.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. So That's quite a bit of conversation about just one viral video. And hopefully, I think one good thing at least to look at from the video is, at least from me, is it's good that people start to talk and think about AI, even though it may look, like questionable, at least to me. But I think one thing I would want to say to myself is sometimes I may be living in a bubble when other people could be seeing some other angles differently. And we can use that as a bridge instead of feeling like we want to fuel more fights and making the world more polarized. So I think that's would be my takeaway. How about you, Alison and Johanna? Yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I think like we're so lucky. I just posted something about this on LinkedIn. Like we're so lucky that we have this little microcosm of the world in our team. So we have like these smart people. Like I get to listen to Shafira and Johanna on a regular basis, like every morning. So I think we're really lucky in that, but I think it's something that is so important to like get these new perspectives and think about these questions and yeah, and just be like slightly critical. We don't have to be afraid, but I think to be critical and to try to be informed is the most important thing.
Love that. How about you, Johanna?
Yeah, I say this a lot that like AI functions as a magnifying glass. Like wherever AI comes, it is like um, magnifying all the problems, but challenges, but also like the good things. So yeah, we are lucky to be in a bubble where we can talk about it and get so much different perspectives. And I really hope that like I really think there's so much value in this open conversations and listening to each other. And it will be so much more important in this age of AI, which is again a marketing term, which I'm now using yeah, on purpose. But yeah, having such conversations and really listening to each other and is so important
Yeah.
nowadays.
Yeah. So thanks for talking. Good to talk to everybody this morning, and we'll see you guys again soon.